From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
As the storm moves in,
we think there's going to be a lot of wind with it.
Ranchers take action to protect their livestock and their feed supplies. Emergency declared despite recent moisture. The nation's largest water supplier says it's taking action in California.
Are dairy farmers leaving California and moving farther east? We look at the changing dynamics in dairy coming up on AgDay today.
Plus a new tool that could help lift the veil between packers and producers.
I think it's going to go a long way.
What it entails right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Cattle producers will soon be getting some new information to help them market their cattle. USDA is announcing the final rule on the Cattle Contract Library Pilot Program. AgDay's Michelle Rook has details and industry reaction.
Clinton, the cattle industry advocated for this program as just one of the many tools needed to help provide transparency and improve price discovery in the cattle markets. This comes after cattle producers charged USDA and Congress to help fix what they considered to be a broken system, as evidenced after the Holcomb, Kansas plant fire and during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Under the pilot program, the Agricultural Marketing Service will report aggregated information on the different types of contracts between packers and cattle producers and the number of head purchased under these agreements. It will include data on contract terms, plus premiums or discounts, even financing, all of which cattle producers say is valuable.
I can't see where it do anything but help, because you don't really know what's out there. And now when you can see what's out there, I think it's going to go a long way. It should solve a lot of problems and quell a lot of fears and put out a lot of fires that are burning constantly.
Ike says it's important to have an understanding of the types of contracts available and prices received while not dictating the types of selling arrangements cattle producers can be part of.
We're always against mandatory restrictions on producers or anybody that's in the business. And this is all about transparency. From what we understand, or myself anyway, the hog industry's had this before, so they're not inventing anything new, so we shouldn't have to be afraid of it.
The National Cattlemen's Beef Association and its state affiliates worked closely with USDA in the testing phase and support the program to help add value to their cattle. AMS will protect proprietary business information by collecting contract terms without any personally identifiable information and not entire contracts. NCBA officials hope that will strike a balance between offering cattle producers insight into the markets to make informed business decisions while protecting confidentiality.
Coverage of the 2022 Milk Business Conference on AgDay is brought to you by Rabo AgriFinance. Discover how an unmatched network of local relationship managers and sector experts can help you confront agriculture's challenges and seize the opportunities that lie ahead. Growing ambition. Learn more at raboag.com.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Cattle producers aren't the only ones keeping a close eye on profitability. The dairy industry is facing margin challenges also, and for many out west, that includes dealing with drought. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan is at the Milk Business Conference in Las Vegas. Tyne.
Well, Clinton, the news really does sound like a broken record. The extreme drought in the West is crippling farmers' availability to find enough feed as well as get enough water. And as those concerns grow, some fear that it could actually cause more farmers in California to relocate farther east. Nearly 80% of the U.S. is covered in drought and dry conditions, and it's farmers in the western U.S. who have seen multiple years of a mega drought. But even with the constraints, the U.S. is still seeing dairy production growth this year.
We think the dairy herd is likely to stabilize in 2023. We saw the dairy herd grow by about 40,000 head in 2022, but given a lot fewer replacement heifers this year, we think there's not going to be significant growth in the dairy herd numbers. However, we do expect dairy production in the U.S. in 2023 to be up about 1.4% on a milk solids basis.
Rabo AgriFinance started researching the idea of dairy cows migrating toward the center of the country a couple years ago. The reason? Water issues in the West, as well as a way for producers to be closer to feed. And Rabo says that scenario is playing out.
It sure is. You know, we put out a paper a couple years ago around this idea that dairy cows are migrating toward the center of the country, closer to the feed, right? That's where the dairy processing capacity expansion is primarily happening, and that's where the cows are heading. And it's really, it's being driven partially by all the water challenges that we see in the West.
Famasi says he doesn't see a mass exodus of dairy farmers out of California, but he does see the dynamics of dairy shifting in the years ahead.
I think we'll continue to see consolidation in the dairy industry in California. The smaller herds are going to really have a tough time of it, like they have for the last 10 or 15 years. I still think we'll see some producers migrate out, but it'll continue, I think, to be a trickle. Not sure that it's going to accelerate significantly.
Now, Clinton, as we know, the drought also causing a major herd reduction in the beef herd in the U.S. And Famasi sees that trend continuing over the next 2 to 3 years. So as the beef supply chain is looking for more cattle, dairy farmers may be the ones who can help fill that void. Reporting from Milk Business Conference here in Las Vegas, I'm Tyne Morgan for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Tyne. And despite recent rains and snowfall in California, a drought emergency has been declared for all of Southern California. The Metropolitan Water District of SoCal, the nation's largest water supplier, provides water to 26 agencies, including major population centers like Los Angeles and San Diego. The district is calling on water agencies to immediately reduce their use of all imported supplies as the state faces the chance of a 4th consecutive dry year. Now, if storms don't continue this winter, mandatory water restrictions could be issued in April. A storm system spawned dozens of reported tornadoes from East Texas to the Florida Panhandle this week, killing 3 people and uprooting families across Louisiana where some homes were blown into pieces. The storm causing heavy damage to the Mobley Gin in Doran, Georgia. Elsewhere, heavy snow and high winds meant more blizzards in the northern Midwest from the Dakotas through Michigan, with ice and snow causing trouble in places from the Appalachians through New England. And it looks like this wintry pattern is going to be sticking around. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik has the very latest. Matt?
That's right, Clinton. It does look like a colder pattern is going to set in as we head towards Christmas, and that could lead to some chances for a white Christmas for some who might not have seen it last year. But take a look at these temperatures as we head into this afternoon. We're still going to be looking at the chilly air kind of filtering in through the middle of the country behind that first system. And this is going to set the stage as we head through the weekend and into next week, along with temperatures that could even be colder than what we're seeing right now, especially for parts of the Midwest. Here's a look at the jet stream as it kind of evolves here. Over the weekend, you'll see the colder air move up towards the north and east, towards down east to Maine and Canada. Then it looks pretty zonal through the first part of the week. It'll still be chilly, but here comes the cold air as we head through Thursday and Friday. And this setup here begs for a big storm setting up somewhere along the East Coast, but could bring snow through the Ohio Valley and the Midwest as well. Something we'll keep an eye on through the weekend and into next week. But we are expecting well below normal temperatures in regards to near normal as we head through next week and through Christmas towards the end of December.
Yields in the Fields on Ag Day is brought to you by Micro Essentials from Mosaic, the science of more. Discover our proven products. Text yields to 31313.
And our neighbors to the north are dealing with cleaning up a lot of snow right now. Corey Peters of Randolph, Manitoba, saying it was time to haul some corn to one of Canada's pork producers in order to help keep the pigs fed. But first, he had to clear a path to get to the bins. More on your forecast coming up.
Soybeans and the Dow under pressure on Thursday. We'll check in the latest market moves with Michelle Rook coming up next. And later, an Arctic blast means rolling out the winter feed, but there's still plenty of cold weather left. We're off to the Dakota pastures as ranchers keep cattle fed. Some positive developments in the latest Rural Main Street Index. The new survey of rural bankers from Creighton University shows for the first time since May, the region's overall reading rose above growth neutral. The December index increasing to 50.1, just above that growth neutral threshold of 50, but up from 45.7 back in November. The researcher behind the survey, Ernie Goss, says bankers expect this year's net farm income to expand by 10%. Stronger than expected export numbers for soybeans failed to wow traders on Thursday. Michelle Rook is back with a look at the markets now.
Thursday's market closes were mixed in the grains. Jim McCormick with agmarket.net is joining us. And Jim, soybeans setting back, was that risk off on Thursday, or was that a little bit of profit taking, or what?
I think more than anything, it was a little bit of risk off, Michelle, after a lot of volatility. Also, we're seeing a lot of spread activity this last couple months. And when we see the beans go down, the corn and wheat go up, or vice versa. We saw that today. And then lastly, I think the market's a little bit spooked about what's going on in China. They've been at that zero COVID couple of weeks now. They've come out of it, and in my viewpoint, they've gone from 0 to COVID 100. It is spreading fast and furious. We're hearing reports of trading desks not being able to be fully staffed. So I think you're seeing a little bit of selling on fear of maybe a little bit of lack of buying from the Chinese, at least near term, until they get over this COVID wave.
Yeah, and maybe a little spread trade with corn and wheat, and so wheat on the long side of that, but also maybe a little weather premium being put into the wheat market on Thursday, or not?
I think you nailed it. We've got some very, very cold temperatures coming in next week, some of the coldest temperatures in a long time, according to some of these European models. So I think you're putting a little bit of weather premium back into the marketplace. Demand also is coming in. Export sales for both wheat and corn were above trade expectations. So that maybe brought in a few more buyers into the wheat market as well.
So do you think corn was more of a follower on Thursday? It's kind of played that role.
I think so. That's probably a good way to put it. Maybe a little bit of buying on the feed ideas. As with cold weather, we tend to feed it a little bit more. Export sales were good, but the reality is they're about half of where they need to be at this point in time, half of where they were at last year at this time. So we need more exports. So more of a follower of the wheat today than anything else.
Corn's still pretty range bound though, isn't it?
I think corn's stuck in a range right now. The reality is, the demand's just not there domestically. We've been riding on the coattails of the ethanol market. The ethanol margins have really kind of got hit recently. We saw a slight uptick, but look at the ethanol numbers earlier this week. They saw production was down and stocks up, and that's not a bullish storyline.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. Jim McCormick, agmarket.net. More Ag Day coming up.
To contact Jim McCormick at Ag Market, call 844-4AG-MARKET or visit their website at www.agmarket.net. Ag Day is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator Closing Wheels provide quicker emergence and are more consistent in dry conditions than any other closing wheels. Order 12 to 16 rows today and qualify for free shipping or 20% off an end zone moisture management package.
Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joining us here for our national forecast, and we've been talking about it all week. Obviously, this low's moving slowly across the country, not very fast.
No, not at all, and it's bringing in the colder air, which is kind of going to set the stage for next week. More chances for snow and potentially white Christmases for maybe some that didn't have any last year. And you can see the jet stream still dealing with the colder air in the upper Midwest, parts of the Northeast dealing with it as well after a blast of some snow that's moving on through. But back to the west, it is extremely warm up the west coast. Notice how this kind of evolves though. The colder air kind of slides back up farther to the north, and as we head into the early part of the week, you might see a system here moving through part of the middle of the country dealing with a little bit of rain or snow showers there, but it's really the second half of the week when we start to see a big area of cold air move right through the middle of the country and towards the east coast. Now this kind of setup really says east coast snowstorm, but we've got a lot of moving parts here, so we have to see how things evolve through the weekend and into next week. That's something we're going to keep our eye on. The cold air will be in place though, that's for sure, and snow chances will be increasing through next week in the Northeast as well. Temperatures feeling this morning below zero in parts of the northern plains there, into the teens and 20s into the Great Lakes, and 20s and 30s down farther into the mid-south. Now, as we head through this afternoon and into tomorrow morning, notice even colder air starts to move its way on in. Bismarck now down to 13 below zero for that wind chill or feels like value, and 15 in Chicago. So extremely cold air moving our way, and that's kind of going to set the stage for next week and another push of some cold air. Our first system's getting on out of here. It's going to move pretty quickly up and out, and high pressure is going to be in control for most of the rest of the country. It's not until early next week where the next system starts to move its way on in, and that will be down along a frontal system in the south before our next storm system comes in through the north. Most of the snow with this has fallen across the northern plains, but still dealing with some heavy snow in the northeast, and we'll deal with more coming through the center of the country early next week, and we'll continue to track that right here on Ag Day. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Utica, New York, heavy snow and a high near 35 degrees. Heading to Fargo, North Dakota, snow and blowing snow likely, a high near 23. And Fayetteville, Arkansas, sunny but chilly, a high of only 39.
And time is running out to register for the Case IH holiday giveaway. Now, one lucky winner will be drawn each day next Monday through Friday. We'll announce those winners right here on Ag Day. They will receive a Case IH prize pack. Then the grand prize winner will be announced on U.S. Farm Report on Christmas Eve. They'll win a Farm All See pedal tractor. To enter, head over to the website on your screen, caseihholidaygiveaway.com.
Got equipment to sell privately but tired of scams and hassles? Visit MachineryPete.com and click Sell Mine. MachineryPete.com, the simple and secure way to buy and sell equipment online.
A big meat packer is canceling its contract with a plant cleaning company at 2 locations, and that's leading to layoffs. Packers Sanitation Services cutting 121 jobs at the JBS pork plant in Worthington, Minnesota. Now, JBS is also canceling the contract with the company at its facility in Grand Island, Nebraska. Now, you'll remember, as we told you earlier this month, a federal judge ordered Packers Sanitation Services to ensure its company was complying with child labor laws. It comes after investigators allege they identified at least 50 minors that were employed to clean the killing floor. The company at the time saying it already does what the government recommends to verify the age of its employees, but agreed to take additional steps to ensure compliance. Tackling opioid misuse isn't just a problem in the big cities, it's also an issue on the farm. And the American Farm Bureau Federation says after 5 years of outreach and education, there is some progress. Of those polled, 60% say adults in their community are more aware of the crisis than they were 5 years ago. And nearly 8 in 10 adults, or 77%, feel comfortable having a conversation about opioids. However, the survey also says more rural adults believe there is a higher rate of drug misuse in rural communities than in the rest of the country compared to 5 years ago. Now, 2 in 5, or 42% of rural adults, say they know someone who is or has been addicted to drugs or prescription painkillers. All right, up next, protecting those hay supplies. What ranchers in the Dakotas are doing as the massive winter storm rolls in. Ranchers in the Dakotas are once again dealing with the effects of a winter storm. Just look at all of that blowing snow. The spring storms hit many during calving, but provided good moisture for the hay growing season. But as Jody Kurzman of AgDay affiliate KFYR tells us, storms like this one are putting a big dent in what the producers had put away for the winter.
Jackie Chrisman documents just about everything that happens on her ranch near Hettinger. She started the JC Farms Facebook page a few years ago as a way to educate people about the daily work on a farm and ranch.
We are preparing for another snowstorm.
These days, her Facebook posts and videos are focused on cattle and storm preps.
It could be quite the doozy of a storm, so we are going to get all the cows, move them into some better shelter.
We think there's going to be a lot of wind with it, and so we decided we're going to move all the cows back into the lots just so we don't have to drift cows.
The Chrisman's cattle had been grazing on corn and sunflower stalks. They had hoped to hold off on supplementing with hay for a few more weeks.
We have enough grazing because we have a lot of corn stalks, sunflower stalks. We weren't really planning on haying them until after the first of the year, and so it kind of dampens our spirit a little bit.
The good news? April's blizzards led to a good hay crop.
July 7th, we were finishing our first cutting, and then the rain just stopped and it got hot really, really hot. So we had a second cutting on some alfalfa.
Still, she says they'll have enough hay to get through this storm.
There's some hay.
And hopefully for whatever else Mother Nature has up her sleeve.
They tucked in here for a few days.
I'm Jody Kurzman, reporting for your news leader.
Well, thanks to Jody Kurzman and KFYR for sharing that story. Now, they did say that recent snowstorm had high moisture content, which could help the hay crop next year. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.